everyone, welcome to the first ever edition of the World We Share podcast version. Today we spoke to Kenan Haskovic, who talked to us about his journey moving from Bosnia to the Netherlands and then to Spain, and how working at RIA has been a full circle moment for him and his family. Stay tuned. Kenan, welcome to the first edition of the World We Share podcast version. We are very happy to have you here. Thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure, Gabi. It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Can we start off, can you tell us a bit about, who you are, where you're from, and how you got here?
Okay, so my name is Kenan. I think most of the people in this company kind of know me. I've been here for 11 years. I'm originally from Bosnia, born in Bosnia. My parents moved to the Netherlands when I was 6 years old. So Bosnia was part of, Bosnia was part of Yugoslavia, which fell apart, which resulted in a civil war. And we moved to the Netherlands at that time. So I grew up in the Netherlands. I went to school in the Netherlands. And actually, I started working for RIA in the Netherlands in 2014. And then a few years later, I moved to Madrid. And that's how I ended up being here.
So you're quite the globetrotter, at least within Europe. And can you tell us a bit more about how it was for you, like when you think back as a child, migrating from Bosnia to the Netherlands?
Okay, so I always view these things in two different ways. So from my point of view as a kid, you don't really realize what is happening. And then when I look at my mom, for example, I think some of the stories that I saw and kind of how she went through it, I see two different lenses. I think as a kid, yeah, we just moved. It was not an easy move because we had to escape. Sarajevo was under siege, so it has the longest recorded siege since World War II. So we kind of had to flee through a tunnel that was built underground. It took us 2 weeks from Bosnia to get to Germany first, or to Netherlands, before going to the Netherlands. Because you had to go with a bus through the mountains, and there were a lot of checkpoints at that time, even throughout Europe. Just for references, I mean, that's a 2-hour flight nowadays. So it's actually not that big in distance. It was just really, really hard to get out of there. But as a kid, you don't really notice it. All my memories from that time, from that trip, but also from the war, are kind of child memories, like playing, like silly stuff like that. Now, when I look at my mom, for example, when I speak to her and how she, obviously she at that moment, like experienced the real world. And for her, it was really, really tough. And I think that is kind of what a lot of people forget. So all these migrants that come to Europe or to the Western world, often in their own way, shape, or form, they do have a really, really, really hard journey in front of them, right? A really hard journey. And yeah, that is hard.
Yeah. And how is your relationship, like both yours and your family, to Bosnia? Like, because sometimes when people leave their country very young, maybe they don't really stay that in touch with their ties, or if you've left because of political unrest, sometimes you can't visit. Like, how has that been for you?
So what we really left for security purposes. So it was not like political persecution. It was just it was really, really hard to stay there. So when we left, we have great ties with the country. Actually, we left, and as soon as the war ended, we kind of went back to visit the family because my parents moved with me and my sister, but the overwhelming majority of my family still lives in Bosnia. So my parents felt like a really big responsibility to kind of take care of the people that are still there. So for the first few years, we kind of did the bare minimum for ourselves in the Netherlands, and then all the extra money we had kind of was going to Bosnia. We're trying to visit them as often as possible. To maintain that relation, my father especially, he thought it was really important to keep also the cultural ties, which is really hard to measure that. Like, how do you do that? So because now my sister has 2 daughters who are born in the Netherlands, and then the difference that we see, for example, is in the type of music that we listen. So my sister and I still like Bosnian music. My nieces, they just listen to, let's say, American music and Dutch music. And I think it's one of those cultural ties that you lose if you're not born in a country. Or the type of movies you watch, or the kind of the jokes that you make. So Um, we had a close relationship with Bosnia. We still have a close relationship with Bosnia. My mom goes there still every year. But I do know that for me, it becomes less and less over time because every time I travel there, I feel super at home, but I'm still distinct from the people that actually stayed there. And I think that is that is a very common feeling for a lot of people that kind of move abroad. I experienced that a little bit as well when I moved to Spain. I mean, obviously, it's very different because when I came to Spain, under different conditions, and I had a job waiting for me here. But still, I feel very welcome here. But I'm not Spanish. And then I go back to the Netherlands, and all of a sudden, I'm like half Spanish when I'm there, which is very weird. It's a very weird dynamic when you move abroad.
Yeah, that was gonna be like my next question because obviously, like you've migrated twice, but the first time it wasn't out of your own volition, and you experienced it as a child. So, when you think back at both experiences, like obviously there's like the key differences that I just mentioned, but like how do you feel like those different experiences shaped you?
So the one as a child, I mean, it's difficult. It's kind of difficult to try to estimate how that shaped me. Obviously, it gave me a lot of opportunities because the Netherlands is a fantastic country with a lot of opportunities. So in that case, I think it was very positive to me. I think moving to Madrid, it kind of opened up my eyes as to how big the world is and how different the world is. Um, I would say it's the best choice that I made in my life, honestly. Um, my initial idea was to move here for 2 years because I saw it like, okay, I'm just going to go for 2 years. I'll have it on my CV and it will look really good. But then when I kind of stepped out and I stepped out of my bubble, and I think that's kind of the key point, everybody lives in a bubble without even knowing it. It it first of all gave me much more confidence as to who I am as a person. Because all of a sudden, people in Spain have a lot more, for example, family ties that are very, very similar to the ones in Bosnia than people in the Netherlands. And all of a sudden, things which were kind of abnormal in my childhood growing up here are completely normal. So moving abroad was great in that sense. And yeah, it just shows you the diversity in the world and how different everybody is. And that actually, if you're listening to this and you have an idea or you have something that you feel is weird, it's probably not weird. There's probably a lot of people who feel exactly like you, who have this same way of thinking. It's just that maybe your surrounding in that moment doesn't kind of match with where you are.
Yeah, that's very interesting that like culturally things have come full circle for you, not by returning to Bosnia, but by finding a culture that maybe is a bit in between of the two cultures that precede you. And then at the same time, you've ended up working at a company that helps families do the same thing that your family was doing when you were living in the Netherlands. Like, how does that feel, both like for you as a person within the company and then when you think about our customers?
Yeah, listen, that is, I'm not making this up, but when I was growing up, first of all, the way that we got out of that we fled Bosnia, I had an uncle who was in Germany at that time, so he kind of helped us with money because every one of these journeys is, you have to facilitate it, right? If you're on the road for 2 weeks in a bus, you have to buy food, and you're living in a war, so you cannot work to earn money, so somebody needs to help you out. And at that time, my uncle, he sent us money. And if he didn't send that money to us, maybe I would not be in the position where I am today. So I am deeply tied to the mission of money transfer in general, but especially RIA. So I got to know it, and I know that RIA helps so many people. And when I look at our catalog, for example, of where we can deliver money today, there are a lot of countries there, vulnerable countries, that the only source of funds coming in is through money transfer companies. So I am deeply, deeply tied to that. And when I was a kid, I'm not making this up again. I always thought I would end up working for a money transfer company, and then it kind of got presented to me, and it was one of the things that made me choose RIA immediately when I had a offer. And after I started working, it was kind of everything I expected and a little bit more in a positive way. So this is really my thing.
I think you're the first person we've ever met that manifested as a child working at a money transfer company.
Yeah, without knowing it's a money transfer company, but yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, but like I think a lot of us even people who like whose families have sent money, like they just don't really think about the concept that there's a company behind it. So yeah, like that's very curious. And since you've mentioned like you're really close with your family,
Yes.
and you still like you have family in Bosnia, now you have family in the Netherlands, and you've moved here. How do you keep in touch with your family?
Yeah. So I don't have a huge family, so different from other people. I'm very close to my mom and my sister. My father passed away, and I'm also close to my family in Bosnia. Don't get me wrong, but my mom and my sister. I mean, this is like daily based video calls. Like every day when I come back from work, I love to cook, and the tradition is I start cooking and I call them through a video call, and then I kind of tell them about my day, and they tell me about their days, and we go through together. Now, I'm very lucky because Netherlands is close by. I mean, it's a 2.5 hour flight, so I visit regularly. My mom comes here regularly, and the truth is that Bosnia is 2.5 hours away as well, just in another direction. So I do have an option to visit them regularly and to see them, which again makes me very privileged because I there are a lot of people whose family live on the other side of the ocean, right? And they don't have that luxury to see them every year or every few months. So I'm super happy with that.
Yeah, for me, it's definitely an 8 hour flight. So not on a monthly basis for sure. Um, and what do you think that you have taken from each of the cultures that you lived in?
Um, so the family element definitely from Bosnia. That's kind of ingrained. Uh, in Bosnia, which is also very similar to Spain, to be honest, like family first, like really family first. You don't walk out on your family ever, and I love that, and that is a value that kind of Ria has as well, right? So if you're part of the Ria family, Ria is going to be there when you really need them. It's one of my favorite things. Then from the Netherlands, I think Dutch society is remarkable. It's a country with 17 million people right now. If you look at them in many aspects, they're like in the top 10 economies in the world or whatever producers of a good or a service. It's an incredible example of excellence in terms of productivity, discipline, and to be honest, uh, um, honesty. So Dutch society is like super fair. It's very direct, but it's also really, really fair. I love that. And I would say Spain, one of my favorite things here is just the way people live life. They really enjoy life. They enjoy life more than people in the Netherlands. They enjoy more than people in Bosnia. So I'm trying to be family first. I'm trying to be as productive and as honest and hardworking as I can. And I try to enjoy my life as much as I can. Those are kind of the features that I try to pull from my different countries where I lived.
Okay, so I think that you definitely took the best from everywhere. And how is it going, like incorporating all of that?
Uh, well, it's going pretty well so far, if I say so myself. I'm very happy. I love my life. Every day that I come to work, I enjoy my work, and in the weekend, I enjoy the things that I do. I think I think a key aspect to that is the state of mind that you take. And if you take a state of mind um, where you enjoy the moment that you're in at that time, which I think is really hard, right? So because often it's very easy to kind of worry for tomorrow, whether it's something for work or something personal that you have. But I think it's kind of a superpower that you can train. If you get to a point where you can enjoy what you're doing in that exact moment, whether it's something simple like watching a movie or something simple like reading a book or even doing groceries and just having a call with someone that you missed or that you like, I think it really, really improves your life. Like your life is not holidays and like fancy dinners. Your life is like every day. So if you find a way to enjoy your everyday stuff, you're going to be a happy person. And then the rest are going to be your peaks, right? So when you go for a nice holiday or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, and that's our mission, opening ways for better everyday life.
There you go.
But no, you're absolutely right in that. At the end of the day, I think that also a lot of migrants get stuck for good reason because it's hard to migrate and there's a lot of challenges. And then even after maybe you're at a point where you can rest a little bit, you're still in that like constant grind mindset and maybe like forget to kind of rebalance things. So it's a good reminder to carve out space, like even as you said, like even if you're at the grocery store and you're just calling your family.
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of migrants that come to Europe, they have this sense of hunger. And how do you measure how hungry someone is? You measure it by the level of urgency that they have. And that's why what you see very often in our customers, but also with the people that work in our company, is that they want to do everything immediately, as good as possible, as fast as possible. And that is a superpower. Really, that is great. That is going to bring you really far in life. But the downside of it is that sometimes you don't take a moment to reflect. You don't take a moment to also enjoy what you're doing. And if you can kind of combine those two, you can keep that hunger and that, let's say, that passion and drive to go forward. But at the same time, if you can find a way to reflect and enjoy the moment itself, I think it's going to make you a happier person. If you're a happier person, you're going to be a better person, I think.
Yeah, 100%. I think that what has happened to us a lot with people we interview for The World We Share is that when they sit down to speak to us, it's kind of the first time that they're pausing to take a look back at everything that they've achieved, and they realize like, wow, actually, like in all this time, it hasn't just been like the challenges, but actually like I've achieved a lot. And on that note, like what would you say has been like your biggest achievement? It doesn't necessarily have to be like work-wise, just in your life, like the moment you're the most proud of.
Um, I have a lot of moments I'm very proud of, but I think the one that really sticks out for me is, so my mom is everything for me. This woman has done some incredible things and has taken care of me and done things for me when I couldn't do them myself. And I think my proudest moment is that a few years ago I was able to buy her an apartment in Bosnia. So she retired this year, and now she has an apartment in Bosnia that is hers. She never owned a property in her life. And I think it's one of the proudest things for me that I could do that for her, give that back to her, because she was not in a position to do it herself. So that one is, yeah, number one for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that has to be like the biggest full circle moment, 100%. So congratulations on that, and I hope your mom is enjoying her retirement.
Yes, she is. Yeah, that is, I think, yeah, that is, yeah, by far the proudest moment.
And last question, we kind of talked about this the other day, but since you come from all of these cultures, if every country that you've lived in was present at the World Cup, in what order would you support them?
Listen, this is a very easy question, to be honest. I'm supporting Bosnia first, okay? And then there's a huge gap. And then I'm supporting the Netherlands. And a small gap below them, and I'm supporting Spain.
Okay, thank you for clarifying the gaps. Yeah. All right, well, I don't know if there's anything else that you wanted to talk about that we didn't touch upon.
No, I just wanted to thank you for inviting me here. And thank you for giving me the podium to
Thank
share
you
my
so
story.
much for accepting to join us here.
Absolutely.
Yay.